complains. It's not fair that he's wealthy. If I had money, I would do this. Constantly he's complaining. Could very much be that if you fast forward the movie, 30 years past, the wealthy person lost all of his money, and the poor person somehow hit the jackpot, now he's rich. So even in our life, we're switching roles. Doesn't mean really switching roles, but we all, at some point, whether it's in this life or previous life, will deal with the same nisayon. That's how it is.
Different stories, same
Yeah.
emotions.
So the nisayon, like a parent losing a child, is one of the hardest tests for a parent. So some parents say it's not fair. Why me? Why I had to do it? So Hashem tells that person, it's not only why you. At some point, everybody will do it. At some point. When I'm saying some point, I'm talking about a different life. It might come a little bit different. But we all go through the same nisayon, and Hashem sees how each one of us deals with it. It's totally different than my actual job in this world. But the nisayon comes to see how I'm dealing with things. And the thing is that, I don't remember where we sidetracked from it, but the point is that a lot of the times that we look at somebody else and we judge the situation and we say, it's not fair. It's not fair. There's no such a thing in the relationship with Hashem, not fair. There's no such a thing. Everything is fair.
It's not only for good things, it's for bad things too.
Right now I'm only talking about bad things. Today we're talking about the bad things.
Somebody rich.
Being rich is not always a good thing.
Yeah. It depends what you do with your money. It could be.
Doesn't matter.
Yes. On the Forbes 500, and they
considered
think
a
it's
much
bigger
nisayon
than not having.
Hashem
It's
created
considered to be a
Yeah.
bigger nisayon, to be rich than to be
It's
poor.
a trade for a
Yes.
commodity.
That's,
I'll tell you what's the problem with a lot of people, the nisayon of being rich, because a lot of people, Hashem gives them a lot of money, and then He takes the money. And going up from here down, the crash is devastating compared to somebody that all his life never had money. Being rich is everything is a nisayon. Ultimately, everything is a nisayon. A man might say, I want a gorgeous wife. And in his mind, it's the most important thing to have a beautiful wife. That's also a nisayon. One man doesn't care that his wife is beautiful and everybody's looking at her. And one man does care. Everything ultimately is a nisayon. Hashem puts things in your life to see how you're dealing with things. If you're accepting things, if you're judging everybody around you, if you're jealous of it, ultimately, almost everything around you is a nisayon. Because Hashem wants to see how you're dealing with things. And every situation that you see arouses some type of an emotion. And the point is to see, the test here is how you're dealing even with your emotion. With jealousy, with anger, with all sorts of things that, why are you jealous that the other person has something that you don't have? That's also a nisayon. Hashem wants to see how constantly Hashem is testing you. The point is to recognize in every event that happens in your life, what is happening right now? Is it a reaction for my bad action? Then I can do tshuva. Is it a nisayon? Is it a test? Is it me just needing to extract this godly spark out of this thing that just looks horrible right now? The only way to really reach to the level that you accept everything with love is by only annulling yourself to the point that you understand that everything comes from Hashem. And when you accept that, that's when Hashem says, okay, now when you made space for me to come in, I can operate. Now it doesn't mean that the horrible thing will disappear. It doesn't always work like that. Chas v'shalom, not too long ago, I just gave a few days ago, a lecture in New York, and this lady approached me and she told me that her daughter had the machala from the age of 14 and she passed away now when she was 18. 4 years of this torture. Now, what's the analysis here? It was obviously a huge nisayon. Is it to remove some spark from Zavra? Not necessarily. Is that a reaction for somebody's action? No. Who says? Could be that it was just a nisayon. And the thing is that we don't see how Hashem puts everything together So if you want to kind of analyze it, which is not 100%, but just to give you an idea, the Hashgacha Pratit is that the girl had to come only for 18 years. That's what she came to do here. That's the amount of days that she came for her tikkun. And the Hashgacha Pratit is that the parents had to go through the suffering. And everybody who's connected here, it's all one big circle. Now, is it a reaction for somebody's action? Probably not. We don't know.
Why does
Probably
she
not.
want to see us in so much pain like that? A lot of you, like, you never want to see your child in pain like that. So you're giving someone this child and you take it away, and then you're just watching this person suffer. But like, let's just look at the good in it. But like,
We will never understand what Hashem wants from us. We'll never understand. And as long as we're trying to understand, it makes us even more annoyed and confused. Hashem says, don't try to understand. And when you're able to make some type of a disconnection between this desire to understand and accepting, then you actually start accepting the situation. But if you want to understand it in a different level, we know when something bad happens, we see it as bad. But it's almost like right now, Chaz v'shalom, a person goes to a doctor with a child. And the doctor tells to the person, the child is very sick, we have to do some type of a treatment. Chaz v'shalom. And I heard a story not too long ago, and I'll give you that example and you'll understand. So a child was a little bit sick. The parent took him to a Chinese medicine, a person that does, the needles. So the doctor started poking the child. The child is like, "Ay, why are you poking me?" Complaining the whole time. The parent and the doctor understands that it's for the benefit of the child. They're curing him. The child's mind is so limited. For him, that person is poking him with needles, and it's hurting him. He doesn't understand that the process that is painful is to cure him. And the pain is only going to be half an hour. And then the problem is going to be solved. That's because the mind of the child is so limited. Sometimes Hashem is poking you, and it hurts you. And you're complaining, "Why are you poking me? It's hurting me." Hashem says, "I'm curing you. I'm giving you a refuah right now. I'm cleaning some dirt that was stuck to your neshama from something that you did. Say thank you, I'm cleaning you." Our mind is so limited that if we see something like this, we translate it right away to, why is Hashem is sadistic? We have to suffer here?
are we cleaning it from a previous life?
Could be. Could be that you're cleaning it from a previous life.
But I thought we only die once we fulfilled our purpose in this world. So why are we coming back to finish something off or to cleanse something?
We don't always die because we finish the purpose in our world. First of all, we might be finishing the purpose in this life. But the way reincarnations work, the Arizal explains that there are 3 types of reincarnations. The first reincarnation is that a soul has to come down to this world to complete all 613 mitzvot in thought, speech, and action. Which means a lot of the people that come back here, they didn't do anything bad in the past. They just have to to complete the 613 mitzvot in thought, speech, and action. And sometimes, you know where you see it? You see it when a person is born into a frum family, never desecrated Shabbat, never ate nothing kosher. Everything is according to the rules, and they live their life, here and there maybe some little things, but most of their life is pretty much on a clear path. So you can kind of see, okay, most likely that neshama came just to complete mitzvot. Then there's another type of reincarnation that a person did something bad in a previous life, and he had to come back here to fix it. And that's most of us. And the third type of reincarnation is that a soul comes down to this world to assist another soul. That soul has no problems. It just came to assist somebody else. So we don't know who we are and what we did. Most likely us is to fix things that we did in a previous life, plus finish the 613 mitzvot. So we don't really know where we're holding. But a lot of the things that we deal in this life is to fix something from a previous reincarnation. And we translate it as something very, very bad. But it's this acupuncture that Hashem is poking us with something. It hurts. Yeah, but that's the healing process. Besides,
Wait, sorry. In this life, will we eventually see, like after that kid keeps getting poked with needles, after half hour is over? In this life, will we ever get to see the good end result?
sometimes,
Like that
Sometimes
pain can
not.
go away, could be healed, or it's all just like the next world that we don't know.
sometimes you see it in this world, sometimes you see it only in the world to come. You have to understand that our soul is built from so many components. People, when they imagine the soul, they see this Casper spirit flying somewhere. That's not our soul. Our soul is a spiritual being. Our mind will never understand what it means a soul. Our mind is stuck in a box in our skull and will never understand spiritual concepts. Never. Doesn't matter how deep you're going to go, our mind will never understand anything that has to do with the spiritual world. The main reason why we got now technology is that we can start relating with the states of Geula, of redemption. To start understanding what it means, godliness.
Why? It's making us more confused and more, I think that's the Sahara. It's like taking us away from our kids, it's like controlling our...
Everything in this world can be pushed to the positive side or can be pushed to the negative side. That's what I said in the beginning of the class. The secret of tree of knowledge has good in it and bad in it. You can take now technology and do miracles with it and use it in an unbelievable way. And you can take technology and destroy worlds. Everything that Hashem gave us, we can do something good with it. Hashem gave us powers, godly powers, that you take a husband and wife, you put them together and they create life. Unbelievable! And you can take the exact same act and do the most horrible sin. So it's the same thing. So anything you can take to do good or bad. That's the problem in this world. This is what's called klipat noga, that it's mixed, good and bad. So technology is part of it. You can take the technology and destroy worlds. But that's not what I'm talking about. The reason why we got technology, one of the many, is because before Mashiach comes, we have to be introduced to a new phase, something new. If not, we wouldn't be able to relate with it. So for 5,000 years, the world was the same. Up until about 130 years ago, everybody was riding donkeys, pulling water out of a well, washing their clothes in the river. Nothing changed. Suddenly, about 130 years ago, the Industrial Revolution, from donkeys, we have satellites. Within nothing. Now for us, 100 years. If you're looking at it in a very cosmic way, 100 years, it's a blink of an eye, and we jump from here to here. Why? Because we're getting close to the time of the Geulah. So the world is shifting that we can kind of understand. Now tell a person 500 years ago that we can reach at the time of the Geulah a unity that everybody can be together. They wouldn't understand what you're talking even. Now you tell it to a person in our generation, okay, of course, I can see how we can all be united. I can now talk to a camera and 50,000 people see me all around the world.
And if the Mashiach comes, push the button, you can all know.
Yeah. Now, all these godly concepts that we're going to see with our eyes when Mashiach is going to come are starting to be introduced to us through technology. If you take now, we know that Hashem creates the world with speaking. I constantly say it. And He creates the world with letters. Now, soon Mashiach is going to come. The screen is going to be removed out of our eyes and we're going to see godly revelation. We're going to see Hashem, like Adam and Chava. Now, if you're not ready for that, a person can lose his mind, technically. So Hashem is starting to introduce us how the whole world is built with letters. So you take now this little box, and you type a sentence, and somebody on the other side of the universe, of the world, instant, not with a lag of a minute, instant, they're getting the letters on their little box. How? What, the letters are just jumping there? How does it work? Now for us it's simple thing. I'm just texting. Say it to a person 50 years ago, they'll think you're doing some witchcraft. They're going to tell you you're totally insane. For us it's normal. Well, you text with each other, other side of the world. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, my grandma lived in Australia. We used to talk to them, and they'd call Australia. Once a month we would call them. And we always saying, oh, imagine one day we could talk and see each other. When Skype came out, my grandmother, it was funny. We would Skype with her. She would put her head in the screen. She couldn't understand. She was tapping the screen. This is like a mind frame. She couldn't understand how she's seeing us.
So that shows us that Mashiach's here.
The world is starting to evolve to a level that we never see, it wasn't introduced yet. All this technology, just think of GPS. Imagine you would try once, 500 years ago, to explain to a human being that Hashem is in Shamayim and He sees everything. They couldn't relate with it right now. Now you tell a 4-year-old, you want to understand how Hashem works? GPS, there's a satellite in the space. Everywhere I go, how does it know where I am? My kids sometimes when we drive and there's a GPS, my kids like, how do they know where we are? How do we know? Yeah, because there's a satellite in space. Now we can relate with the fact that there's something hovering over us and it can track millions of little devices and know where they are.
It could kill us, though, too.
That's for sure. But I'm saying the technology, we're starting to see how the world is evolving, that we can see how godliness operates in the world. So I don't even know how we sidetrack to that. But
Talking about the soul and what the tikkunim are.
to make a long story short, that you can start asking your questions. When one wants to deal with all these ups and downs, you have to recognize where they're coming from. And when you recognize where they're coming from and you know the cause, then you don't get overwhelmed by this down that I'm going through. Either it's something that I did. So Hashem is showing me a warning light. Hello, wake up. You did something wrong. Fix your act. That's the ultimate kindness of Hashem. The ultimate chesed. That Hashem is telling you, you did something wrong, please do tshuva. Apologize, give it back, say you're sorry. It's the ultimate chesed. We just translate it right away as a punishment. Look how distorted our mind is working. We're calling it a punishment. Hashem is saying, a punishment? I'm just giving you a warning. Look, fix it. The second thing is, like I said, it's a nisayon Hashem wants to see. So if I understand that it's a nisayon, it's a test, and it's always coming from Hashem, and it's just a game here, and the more I know myself to accept that it's coming from Hashem, I'm making space for Hashem to intervene and change things. Besides the fact that if I don't do that, would it help me? No. So at least put a smile on your face. And the third thing, yes, I was hired. I have to look at it in a very cosmic way. I'm here with some type of a job, and right now, and I have to override this obstacle by me going through right now this hardship. I'm extracting this godly light, and I'm elevating it to Hashem. And that's what I was hired for. And most people, when they go to work, they work hard. Very few people have an easy job. Most people, it's a hard job. So this is your job in this world. Who said the job has to be easy? Sometimes your jobs are easy in this world. Sometimes your jobs are hard. So I know some people, they have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or they work in construction, or they're doing hard jobs. But they have to do it because they have to bring money to the table. And you don't have to carry stones to work hard. I know people that sit in an office for 18 hours and all day long dealing with customers, lawsuits, whatever. So the same way to earn money in this world is hard, then I want to earn my spiritual reward in the next world, then it's a hard work. Then I have to deal with something that is hard. It's all the mind frame, how I'm looking at it. Am I looking at it as a negative thing, or I'm looking at it as a positive thing? So something come negatives, if I'm going to look at it, hey, wait a minute, it's something positive. Something's going to good come out of it. Then I look at it in a completely different angle. So it's all the attitude, how you look at things. And in able to recognize what is exactly happening is like I told you, you sanctify yourself. You work on yourself. You sanctify yourself with things that you are permitted. You sanctify yourself with basic things. You work on your own midot. And the main one is the ego. And you can work on your midah. You came here to do that. And if a person has a problem with anger, then you control yourself. You work on controlling your anger. And one of the ways to control the things that are hard to control is to control the things that are easy to control. That's what I told you before, this is kafia. So if I'm able to control something small, I don't really need it right now. Thank you.
What about addictions?
Excuse me?
What about addictions? Like, we all know what's best for ourselves, but...
Addictions can be explained in two different ways.
Or,
Or computers.
what if you
phones, or any of them.
you can't eat 3 Oreo cookies, you can eat the box.
The thing is, an addiction is a sickness in the mind.
But they say the first thing you do is you admit you're powerless, not that you can have power over it. A lot of Jewish people deal with, the 12-step programs in there.
Addiction is a completely different thing. There's different levels in addiction. Some of the addictions are physical, which are much harder to deal with because it's the body already controlling. A lot of the addictions are mental. There's different types of addictions. If you're talking about the serious addictions like drugs, alcohol, stuff like that, that's a whole different ballgame. Addiction to what you're saying, computers and stuff like that, that's just like a weakness in the control. Although even some people have addictions with all sorts of, video games or whatever. Ultimately, an addiction is some type of a knot in the spiritual level, in the neshama, that doesn't allow a free flow of energy. This is ultimately everything in this world is a manifestation from the world above. Sickness too. When a person is sick in this world, I'm not talking about a running nose. When a person has some type of a disease in this world, it means that a spiritual organ in his neshama is sick, that it manifested into the body. That's what it is. And you want to cure the problem, is not the doctor, is up there. That's sicknesses. I have online a 3.5-hour lecture about where do sicknesses come from. Yes, some of them come from the environment. So I'll get a running nose. Fine. Some of them, they actually come because that's the decree how the person has to deal with the nisayon in this world, or chas v'shalom, leave this world, and doesn't matter what you're going to do, it's not going to change. But the majority of sicknesses that we deal with is a spiritual deficiency. And our body has 248 limbs. That's why we have 248 positive mitzvot. Why we have 248 positive mitzvot? Because each mitzvah I'm pulling down, in my soul I have 248 pieces. So when I do a positive mitzvah, I pull down a godly light from my spiritual part of the soul into the organ, into the body. So now the organs of the body are full with the lights of the soul. Now if I now don't do this positive mitzvah, then I remove the lights out of the organ.
Is that when the organ gets sick?
And why? Because if I remove the light out of the organ, what happens? Now I have a free space. What do you say? How do you say space in Hebrew? Halal.
How do you say?
Halal. Halal is an empty space. Makom is place. How do you say sick in Hebrew? Chole, same letters. If I remove...
Cure somebody who's sick.
Hold on. Once you remove the godly light out of the organ, once you remove the godly light out of the organ, becomes a halal, an empty space, the organ becomes sick. Bring back the light into the organ is not going to have a problem.
So you have a void and it gets filled.
Exactly.
It's got somewhere to go.
Exactly. So the sicknesses that we have is because I have a spiritual deficiency. So when it comes to something spiritual, and especially an addiction, you have to understand that from our soul to the body and the soul is like, imagine it's connected like a fiber optic. Right? You ever saw fiber optic?
Yeah.
One fiber and it has a lot of strings in it?
All the wires will be gone.
Exactly. So my soul is connected to the body, let's say for the sake of the example, with this fiber optics. And sometimes there's a knot, there's a kesher, there's no flow. You know when they do the acupuncture? Because there's no good flow in the energy. So when I don't have a good circulation in my spiritual structure, then I start becoming all these knots. And one of the ways that it will manifest will be in some type of an addiction. I don't have a healthy flow.
So how do you get to that part? Because I know with food, it used to be whatever you
How
have.
do you untie the knot?
Right, yeah.
First you have to recognize that, well, the ultimate way to untie the knot is to follow the Torah exactly.
Ooh.
That's it. The Torah is the cure for everything. And if you don't follow the Torah exactly, you're going to be very frum and still miss 5 mitzvot.
Right.
What if it's like your kids though? Like, how do you help your kids see?
Kids also have to do mitzvot, and it affects their soul too.
It
Saying,
starts
how do
with
you-
yourself.
How do you help kids that are like addicted on a computer? Or how do you help them see that, like, because this world is.
If the kid is before bar or bat mitzvah, you have direct control over them. Which means that if the kid has a problem with addiction, very good chance the parent has a problem with some type of addiction that is kind of parallel. Once they hit bar and bat mitzvah, that's it. It gets separated. You have much less control, and unfortunately, a parent can put a problem on a kid. Now the kid has to deal with it.
They can catch your.
Yeah, but a parent exactly.
The same pattern.
When a pattern, even spiritually. So a parent can have spiritually an addiction, not spiritually, have an addiction, spiritually like Wi-Fi, it will affect the kid.
Right.
So if you look at a kid and the kid has some type of an addiction, look where the parent has a similar addiction.
Right.
And you see that a lot of addictions in our generation the kids have for the computer. Shem Elachem, the father has an addiction on the computer.
So if the father fixes it, can the
Good.
child get root osmosisly fixed the same way, or like do they have to go through their own?
Usually when it's a young child, children don't know how to get off an addiction.
Right.
But yeah, when the father or the mother have control over their addiction, you said food, sometimes the mother can have an addiction for food, for the Oreos. It will manifest into the kid. The kid will have some type of an addiction, not necessarily to Oreos, but an addiction to something that connected a little bit to food.
I don't see it with my kid. I see the opposite.
Look, nothing is black and white.
Like she's a nutritionist, and she's like.
No, if she's already older, that's a whole different thing.
Huh?
Some people follow exactly like their
They see
parents,
what
or
they
they
didn't
go,
like.
they don't want
Right.
it, and they go complete polar
The
opposite.
thing is that,
Correct.
not to chas v'shalom judge anyone, but most of the problems of our kids is our fault.
Uh-huh.
And, I can't come to complain to the kid. Not too long ago, somebody came to me, and she was literally crying how she has unbelievable suffering, that all her kids are married to non-Jews, they don't celebrate holidays, they don't go do Shabbat. She was whining and crying a whole hour. She has no nachat. Now Pesach is coming, they don't want to come to her. A whole hour she's crying. And I told her, listen, I'm very sorry to tell you, you sent them to public school?
Uh-huh.
What do you want to happen? What do you want? What are you expecting from them?
Right.
You send them to public school.
Okay, so let's go forward. Now what can they do?
That's a total different thing. I mean, she was trying to, not trying, she came and told me how hard it is for her. So, of course, there's a now what. In some cases, there's no now what. Go now fix. She's in her 60s. Her kids are already in the 30s, 40s. Now fix it. The damage is so severe. But I told her, but why are you complaining? Like, I'm sorry to tell you, you did it. You did it. So what do you want me to do? You want me to comfort you somehow? So the damage, a lot of the damage that the kids go through, it's me. And then I come and complain, my kid is not listening to me. My kid is addicted. My kid is this. I'm very sorry. Like, you allowed it to happen. So I'm not saying that it's the solution. I'm just saying that's the reality. Don't come and complain. You want to find a solution? That's a whole different thing. Sometimes the solution, there's no solution.
These parents that sent their children to public school, they didn't know better. That's how we look at it. As I come from
I'm
that
not
country,
blaming
I see My
anyone.
parents didn't know better.
But
That's
you're
all
wrong.
they knew.
You're
But the
wrong.
rest of them aren't.
No,
One of my
but
brothers
that-
aren't. So
They must have done
But-
something right.
but-
The thing is, Chas v'shalom, I'm not blaming anyone.
Yeah.
I'm just, I gave an example that sometimes first of all, to take it out of context, she said we're frum. So if I have knowledge about certain things and I don't apply it, and then my kids suffer from that, then I am to blame. So if I know that letting my kids watch a certain show and it's violent, or not modest, or nonsense, or whatever, and I allow it because I don't feel like dealing with my child right now, I glue him to a screen, and then my child starts having all sorts of side effects, they become violent, they become whatever, I can only blame myself. I can't say, I didn't know. So a person has to take responsibility when it's time to take responsibility. If a person grew up secular in America and sent the kids to public school, I'm not blaming anyone. I was just telling her, that lady, listen, I'm very sorry, what do you want me to tell you? You sent them to public school. I'm not blaming you, but that's the result. You can't complain now that they're not coming to your Shabbat table. The fact that you did Shuvah, that's very nice of you. But now they're not going to come to your Pesach table because he's married to a non-Jew. She doesn't even know it's Judaism. She thinks she's Hindu, whatever. So I'm not blaming anyone. What to fix now, sometimes the damage is irreversible.
I see it all the time.
But the thing is that you want now, and especially if you have younger kids, to control. Yes, this generation is very hard to control, but you do whatever you can. That's why a lot of the Gdolim, the big rabbis in our generations, they say, don't even start, don't even bring it into your home. Why cause a problem? That's why you see in many groups, they really segregate the kids. They don't, no, I don't want nobody next to my kids. And you're looking at that crazy and fanatic, but on the end of the day, they're like, listen, I want to guard my kids. I don't want my kids seeing all this junk. I don't want my kids being involved in it. That's why a lot of people, they choose very carefully which school they put their kid. Because they know the end result might be devastating. So we have responsibility as parents. What am I giving over to my kid? So a lot of it is my fault. I have control over it. If my kid sees that I'm waking up early in the morning and goes and prays, and I go to yeshiva, and I open my house to bring guests into my table, and you cook for 8 hours for a Shabbat meal, and your kid sees your efforts, it goes into the subconscious, and you are your kid's heroes. So if you want your kid to be a certain thing, then you become a role model. And if you can't complain to the kid, that she's not doing something when you're not doing it.
They see right through hypocrisy.
Of course.
I
Pick it up
have,
so fast.
I have to say something. The kids that I teach art to, 9 out of 10 times they don't want anything Jewish. They've had it in schools, basically. They don't do Jewish stuff.
Kids
They see it.
observe everything. You can't even imagine how much kids observe around you. Now, the main problem that most people are dealing in our generation is the kids. That's one of the main things.
They need to love it. They need to be part of it.
Well, what I find is that a lot of people are not sensitive, or they don't notice what their flaws are in themselves. They see it in their kids and they hate it, and then they get so
That's a good
angry
way.
and they take it out on their kids, but they don't even understand that the only reason it bothers them is because that's who they are, and they're picking out the negative from their child. Let's say
The
they're
mirror.
a liar
The mirror.
and they are dishonest. They've taught their children by example to be dishonest, and then they get angry at their kids for lying, and they still don't recognize that they themselves are the biggest liars.
Yeah.
And this vicious cycle goes. And how can you not set by example? You have to practice what you preach. It's very important, and I think a lot of people, they don't recognize their flaws, and those flaws, they look at their children and they see the flaws, and
They don't like
it's not
it.
very pretty.
A good thing though, I was just studying Mishle, Rabbi King Solomon, and Rabbi Dalsky, I don't know if you know, said that if your intention, if you do things wrong, but your intention is like, you tell them you're hypocritical, you need to put a tablecloth on, but you didn't do it growing up, if your intention is good, or if you say to your child, I never did it, I want, you like admitting that you did something wrong,
Right.
then the kid gets the honest message.
Yep. Listen, raising kids is not easy. It's an art. But it's the most important investment.
Biggest job.
It's the most important investment. Bezrat Hashem.
Can I ask a question that's not exactly like, it has to do with
Sure.
neshamas. So when we come
And ask
down,
whatever you want.
when we come down to do our tikkun, is it true that, we have 5 parts to our neshama? Right? Could it be that
More than
we
5, but
Okay, could we have different neshamas? Like, we're not new neshamas to anybody now. We're all like old neshamas, correct? So do we have different parts of different neshamas inside us and different parts of
at
our
the
life?
same time,
Yeah, I'm just curious.
not at the same time.
Okay.
Sometimes there are options that are 2, 3 neshamot are in the same body. It's not a good situation, but there are situations like that,
Okay, so it's not a good situation if you have more than one neshama at a time.
obviously.
Huh? One person in the same life will have 2 neshamas? What does that mean?
Well, in different
means
times
that-
of your life, I think.
It means that, no, that's a different
That's a
thing.
different thing, but at one time, you can have different parts of different neshamas in you. And my question is, if you have such a situation, or let's say you're growing or you're chas v'shalom going backwards, and you're having different neshamas and you're being attacking this, and then that one leaves, and then you're getting an. If a person's gonna die after they finish their tikkun, do they get it? How does it work?
It's not so simple to explain, and it's also not so simple to understand.
Right.
But first of all, the thing, how it starts is like this. First of all, when a person is born, he gets the level of what's called nefesh. Right when you get born, you get the level of nefesh. Then when you come to bar and bat mitzvah, you get the level of ruach. Then when you come to the age of 20, you get the level of neshama. Now the thing is that a person has to work and elevate themselves. A person can work and operate on the level of nefesh his entire life. Now, let's say a person right now is working on the level of nefesh. He has to fix his nefesh. It doesn't mean that 100% of his nefesh is in the body. It could be that in a previous reincarnation he fixed 40% of his nefesh, and that piece of the nefesh is already in Gan Eden. And the rest of the 60% comes and reincarnates. Every time you finish a piece of the reincarnation, that's it. That piece is in Gan Eden right now. There are times that could be a piece of the nefesh in Gan Eden, a piece of the ruach in Gehenom, a piece of the neshama in your body, were scattered all over the place at the same time. So you constantly fix pieces. So right now in our life, could very much be that I have 20% of my nefesh to fix, 40% of my ruach to fix, and 70% of my neshama to fix at the same time. It gets much more complicated. The Arizal is talking about it in Shara Gilgulim into depth, but it gets very, very confusing and complicated. There's pieces of the soul, and it's here and it's there. But yeah,
Well, can, let's say, a big tzaddik, can his neshama, does it come down as, let's say, any neshama, can a neshama come down into many people and have different pieces that are fixing in different people's bodies?
at the same time, it's very rare that it happens. And a tzaddik is not a regular neshama. The neshama of a tzaddik is a completely different neshama than what we have. How so? Because there are 4 spiritual worlds. The highest level is called Olam HaAtzilut. Under this is Olam HaBriya, then Yetzirah, then Asiyah. And each world has different souls coming from it. The world of Atzilut are very high level souls. Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, all these great matriarchs and all these great tzaddikim, they come from Olam HaAtzilut. That's a total different type of neshama. Most of our neshamot are coming from either the world of Yetzirah or either the world of Asiyah. A much lower level soul. So, to compare what it means, we can't understand what it means, a neshama from the world of Atzilut and a neshama of the world of Briah. We don't really understand what it means. It's just a different level neshama. That's why when a tzaddik comes down to the world, he operates in a completely different level. Besides that, the neshama of the tzaddik depends on who's the tzaddik and the level of his neshama. A lot of the tzaddikim is what's called a neshama klalit. It's a neshama that contains in it all the neshamot. Or sometimes it's a neshama that contains in it a group of neshamot. So it depends who's the tzaddik. Moshe Rabbeinu was a neshama klalit. All the souls of all the Jews were in his neshama, included in his neshama. Sometimes, I'll give you like one example. If you're looking at Rabbi Nachman, all the souls that somehow attached to Breslev, they're all one neshama. That's why they manifest into this world that these particular people, they relate with Breslev.